Welcome back to another Union Street podcast. It's a special one today, here with Josh Benson.
Yo, hey.
Thanks, Josh, for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And we got Reese here, too.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good, man.
Yeah.
Josh, it's about time we have you on this podcast, man. I'm really excited to have a conversation, hear about your background, Southern Illinois, Marion Civic Center, Marion Murals, your podcast.
Just a few things.
You got a lot going on, man.
Just a few.
So yeah, thanks for being here, and thanks for watching. Subscribe to this podcast. We have a new episode every Friday at noon Central Standard Time. So yeah, let's just jump into it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. It's my daughter's last day before she goes into school. So I got to spend a little bit of time with her this morning.
Oh, that's special.
Hanging out, and then she's off to a water park with her grandma. So.
Oh man, how fun. Great way to end summer.
It is.
Yeah. And stopped by and got some coffee. Thanks for bringing it by.
Crown Brew all the way, man.
Yeah. So thanks for that, man. So, Josh, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. I grew up in DuQuoin, Illinois. If you're from Southern Illinois, a listener, you know where that's at. A little town of about 6,000 people that has the grand DuQuoin State Fair. And that and football are about the two big claims to fame for DuQuoin. A lot of horse racing. And so I was raised there. My father was a guitar player. And so I was always raised with music. The first song that I remember being my favorite song was Bad Love by Eric Clapton. So I grew up on Muddy Waters, B.B. King, Eric Clapton, like all the blues greats. And my mom was listening to like the Beatles and Rod Stewart. And so there was just some great music around the house. A lot of Eagles. And so I feel like I had a great start for the entertainment and music industry, just by the wealth of knowledge that came from the music that my parents were listening to. It wasn't until I was older that I found pop music of any kind, because I was just steeped in the blues, which is a great start.
That's like the roots, the foundation for a lot of the pop music that came after. Really good taste.
Yeah.
Right there, and the music choices from your folks.
And so, it started with that, and then my grandparents, my Grandma Smith and my grandfather, they took me to my first concert, which was at the DuQuoin Fair, and it was Willie and Waylon. And I remember it clear as day. Willie Nelson came out, did a full set. Waylon Jennings came out and did a full set. And then they came out and did a full outlaw country music set together. And it was just incredible.
Wow. Icons.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
And I think that was like 80... Somewhere 86, 87, 88. Somewhere in there. I was pretty young. But nonetheless, that's my first like very clear musical... like live music experience outside of my dad playing guitar.
Wow. And what a first introduction. Right. For those two legendary artists. Two
legends and getting to see them together in one show. And so, that was a great start.
Yeah. And maybe can you speak on what live music, live entertainment, at that time, what that impact made?
Yeah, and so from there, like, I obviously had loved concerts at that point and I was young. I was born in 82, and so I was somewhere in the range of 4, 5, 6 years old whenever I went to that concert.
Oh, that's really young.
Really young, but I remember it like it is an imprinted memory. And then I think when I was like 8 years old, I started helping to run sound for my dad's bands. He played with a lot of church bands and Christian groups as well. And I was on a soundboard from the age of 8 on.
Got an early introduction into
production and I mean, of course, at 8 years old, all I knew is that I'm just moving the knobs a little bit to try and balance out the sound. At 8 years old, you don't know what it's supposed to sound like, but the simple way that my dad told me was make sure you can hear everything that's on the stage. And so I started from that just clear point at that age, and my outlook is never changed on live sound. It's still the same. You want to hear everything that's happening on that stage, and you want to hear it clearly. And then it gets a little bit more complex from there as you get a lot better at sound. But that's still the main goal. You need to hear everything on stage. And so that was where I first started being involved with live events, and live music, live entertainment. And from there, I did band, starting in 5th grade. And then I think in 6th or 7th grade, I started doing choir. And at the end of my 8th grade year, I was in the choir, and the choir director, whose name was Larry Davies, grabbed me and said, "Hey, I'm taking you to audition for a musical. Because you need to be in one. Everything about your personality and you says that you need to do musical theater." I'm like, I don't know what that means, but okay. And so he took Larry Davies, loaded me and 2 of my friends, Derek Buck and Stephen White, into a car, took us to John A. Logan to audition for John A. Logan's summer musical workshop, I think is what it was called. And we did Little Abner. And I got cast as a named role, because I was somewhat of a ham at that point, and so I got cast as Speedy McRabbit, the town idiot.
Oh wow!
And got to build like a caricature, essentially, not a character because there was no depth to it, but a caricature. And I got laughs every time I came on the stage, and that lit a fire for live entertainment. As far as actually being on stage and a part of it at that point. And so that was my first musical theater experience. That was summer of 96. And Larry Davies was the director of the show. Karen Sala was music director. And I got to perform with people that I've been performing with and are in the industry ever since. Adam Key, who lives in New York and performs off-Broadway and tours and performs all over the place. He was in the role of Little Abner. Ellie Atwood, who's in New York, who is also from Marion. She was in there as well. Kristen Pankey. And just tremendous show. Ryan Patrick played a role in the show. I think the name of his role was like Marion Sam, who was a pastor or priest or whatever in the show. But and so a lot of people who are kind of like icons of the theater world of Southern Illinois and who are out in the industry performing were in that show with me. And so we all started together. Granger Odom. Granger and I were in that show together. He played the mayor, I believe. And so, I fell in love with it there. And then I went to high school in DuQuoin following that summer and joined the speech team right away. And Alan Kimball was our high school theater teacher at that point. He was there for my freshman and sophomore year. And in the theater classes that I was taking, you had to do set design and you had to do all these things. And the first set design I did, built a scale model of it, I fell in love with set design. And my grandfather I had always tinkered in the garage and helped grandpa build things. And so I was kind of handy with my hands. And so I started building sets and designing sets and fell in love with that even more than performing. And after that, my interest was totally focused on set design, lighting design, and no longer focused on performing. I still performed, but that was not my focus. And so went to SIU theater department after that, after high school, for set design and lighting design. Kind of burned myself out there and didn't finish my degree, but it gave me a great foundation to start from. Did a lot of freelance work after that and did a bunch of other jobs in Southern Illinois. I managed a tuxedo shop for a while, managed a movie theater for a little while, worked for Pepsi as a sales representative. And it turns out that all of those things kind of gave me a business background, which aligned me perfectly to whenever the job for the Marion Cultural and Civic Center became available and I applied for it. I had both the business background and the theater background, and it was a perfect fit. And so in 2007, the spring of 2007, I became the technical director for the Marion Cultural and Civic Center. And then 6 months later, I became the executive director of the Marion Cultural and Civic Center. Wow. And have been at the helm since. And so 15 years now, here we are.
That's quite the long career you've had there, the last 15 years.
Yeah, 15 years is a little while. I remember a couple of people that are in this room as kids there. Running around the Civic Center whenever I first started.
I remember too.
On the last episode of the podcast, Becky was talking about, the second show of Cats, which the final dress rehearsal for Cats was my first day on the job.
Really?
It was. And so remember it incredibly clearly. And then I've been there with Art Starts and with every other show ever since.
Wow.
So,
man, what a long history already built in.
Yeah.
I remember that, man. I remember running through those halls and, with Cats and, having the Civic Center. I mean, it's such a diamond for our city, such a jewel. And I want to get into more of that sort of.
And I feel like I was just a kid then too. I was 24 whenever I started.
Yeah.
So,
we've all done some growing since then, right?
Done a lot of growing,
some learning, lot more experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's awesome. And there's been a lot of obviously improvements too since then, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So, what does an average day look like for you,
There is
Josh?
no average day. Every single day is different. Some days I'll be in the office, I'll be on the phone with agents, I'll be building, I do all of the advertising, graphic design, marketing, video editing for TV ads. I do all of that in-house in my office. And then we've got an amazing staff. Derek Hamblin handles the box office and client relations for the most part. So a lot of the scheduling for promoters and for rentals goes through Derek. I schedule all of the national touring acts that we bring in through working with agents and agencies to find the shows, bring the talent to Marion. And then Vince Elliott is our technical director. He handles all the production for things coming in. Brandon McGee works hand in hand with him as our lighting designer. And so the majority of the shows that you see there are designed and crafted from a lighting perspective by Brandon McGee. And then the facility couldn't run without Mike Wade at the helm of overseeing the facility itself. And he takes care of maintenance. He runs our cleaning crews. Liam Wallace is our newest full-time employee. Kevin Askew just recently left for another position, and so Liam Wallace has taken over his position as custodian, and Liam works hand in hand with Mike. And then on top of all of that, we're also still in the middle of a renovation of the first Christian church in Marion to become Market Street Hall, an additional 300-seat venue in a 100-year-old historic church building. It's kind of just across the street from here, across the parking lot in the street.
You could say it's a stone's throw away.
Yeah. Yeah, if you've got a good arm, it is.
I know a guy.
Yeah. And so we're working on that. We hope to have that renovation finished this spring. And then additionally, I attend rehearsals for musicals. I assist with some fine tuning. I give notes to the director of things that I see. And this isn't every musical. The director really shapes the shows. I give them additional eye on things. And I look at a lot of the technical things whenever I'm doing that as well. The sets, the scene changes, things like that. Because that's where my expertise really lies. And so there is no typical day. Show days look completely different. And then we also have our podcast, the State of the Art Southern Illinois. So we're recording that, editing that. We've got a podcast studio there in-house. Luke, you've sat in on the podcast already. And so you've been in our studio. So it's a pleasure to be in yours this time.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you, Josh. It's an honor for you to be here. And just big shout out to you and all that you do at the Civic Center, the Civic Center staff. Let's hear it for them. Market Street Hall, all the stuff you've got going on, man. It's amazing. So, kudos to you. And, there's a lot that goes on that you do.
There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
And then, I work with the city of Marion on a lot of stuff as well. The Marion Cultural and Civic Center is owned and operated by the city of Marion. We are underwritten by the city of Marion. And so they give us a lot of support. They give us a lot of freedom to bring in bigger name acts. And hopefully if anybody's been paying attention to what the Civic Center has been doing, they've been noticing there's been a lot more big names coming in, a lot more names in general coming in, and a lot of variety to the acts that are coming in. We're not just, whenever I first moved to Marion, everybody that I would talk to, I'd be out having a drink somewhere, and I'd just get into a random conversation with somebody, and they'd be like, yeah, the Civic Center just brings in Christian stuff. It only brings in gospel. It only brings in, and they talk about all these, what they considered and what some people considered stale music at that point, because they were hearing like gospel quartets and quartet conventions and stuff like that. And so 15 years ago, I was like, man, there could be so much more here. It could be so much more. We could do so much more. It's this beautiful, amazing 1,100-seat facility. It needed a lot of updates as far as the technical aspects, the sound and the lighting, which almost $1 million has been put into sound and lighting over the last 5 years.
Whoa.
Primarily through donations and grant funding. And so pretty much at very little taxpayer expense to Marion taxpayers. Some of the grants are through federal funding, so sure there's tax stuff there, but it's not direct tax revenue from Marion that's going into those updates. Those updates to bring our sound and our lighting and our production up to par with any national touring venue has come from either private investment or private donation or through grant funding. And so we've been able to bring ourselves up to a new level, which allows us to do much bigger, more robust tours. Actually, just Tuesday morning, not sure when this is going to air, but Tuesday morning, August 9th, we just announced A.J. Croce's coming into town. That is Jim Croce's son, and it's the 50th anniversary of Don't Mess Around with Jim.
Oh, wow.
And so it's the 50th anniversary tour of A.J. Croce performing his father's music. And he's talking about his experience growing up, and it's just a really cool show. I've seen him showcase some of this music twice now, and he sounds just like his father. And so it's such a cool show to kind of relive Jim Croce's music through the voice of AJ Croce.
That's cool.
With the storytelling of the family and what the music meant to the family and everything else. So it's a really cool show that's going to come on October 9th. And it's, to me, getting to hear, is it kind of a tribute act? Kind of. But whenever it's his son doing the music, it's a different kind of thing. There's a lot more legitimacy to it. There's a lot more originality to it because it is a voice that's connected to Jim Croce that's coming in to do that. So I'm really excited about that show announcing.
Yeah, there's so many good shows that you've announced and are upcoming and that you're working on, I know, behind the scenes too. And I think your podcast is named very perfectly State of the Arts Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
From the upgrades that have been made to the Civic Center to the kinds of acts that are being brought in.
Well, and that name came about. You and I discussed it whenever I originally came up with that name. That name happened in the fall of 2020. We had done our virtual series, performing arts series during the pandemic, and we'd done, I believe, 39 shows in just 11 weeks, 13 weeks. We were doing 3 shows a week. I think we did 3 virtual shows a week for 13 weeks. If I've got the math right, that's 39. If I don't have the math right, I do the arts. I don't know.
Someone can add it up later.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
But we'd done that. And so we started just a Facebook interview series. And you helped me with the ideas. You and I talked about it. And you and I discussed that name, State of the Arts Southern Illinois, because it was all about, the idea was that it was going to be all about the arts. And we started it, and then I didn't follow through with it. I honestly don't remember why I didn't follow through with it. We did a handful of episodes as just a Facebook streaming series. And then to then launch the new podcast, State of the Arts Southern Illinois, we started working on it and talking about it. And a number of friends of mine in the industry were like, hey, we were all talking. We were at a kind of a professional development event, if you will. And we were all talking about, like, what projects did you have during the pandemic that you enjoyed doing that you're not doing now, and why? And I really enjoyed doing the interviews with the State of the Arts series. We didn't do that many of them, but I really enjoyed what we were doing. So I was like, yeah, I guess that would be it. Like, would you do it the same way or would you do it differently? I was like, I think I would do it as a podcast that we have a video component to, rather than just a Facebook video streaming event. And so that's where it came from. And sticking with the name State of the Art Southern Illinois just worked, because we like to feature not just things that are happening at the Civic Center, but we'd like to use our platform to bring awareness to things that are happening all over Southern Illinois, in Marion, Mount Vernon, Carbondale, everywhere. And so we started working on that idea and that concept, and that we could focus and feature on local artists and use our platform to then promote local artists. And then during the year, right after we started that, an arts administration intern came on with us from SIU, AJ Rice, and he became an associate producer on the podcast because he's in the radio TV with a minor in theater. And so it was just a perfect fit for him to kind of jump onto the podcast as a associate producer and help us with the production aspects of it. And one of the ideas that he came up with that was so good was, we had some like generic canned music that was in the beginning of it. That was our intro music, if you will. And it was good. It was fine. But if our focus was focus on local artists, we should feature a different local artist's music every podcast. And I was like, that's a brilliant, brilliant idea. And so with that idea, we had just interviewed Jeremy McConaughey that day, or Jeremy Todd, as his performing name is. And he's like, why don't you reach out to Jeremy and see if we can use his music for the next 5 podcasts? And so at that point, we were like, all right, we're going to jump in with that. And then I think we're 11 podcasts past that at this point. We've had Kevin O'Lau come on with Carve for a handful of podcasts. And then we just had Dub Z, Southern Illinois hip-hop artist, who came on for an episode, and we used his music for that specific episode. And so we've been able to feature some artists in Southern Illinois, and we're going to continue to do that because it was a brilliant idea, and it really follows our goals, which is different ways to further expose Southern Illinois artists to people through the large platform that we have.
Yeah, custom music can really add the texture and the character to the show. And shout out to you, Reese, for writing our intro music and outro. So
yeah, thanks, dude.
Got another local artist right here.
And not just for this podcast, but for other podcasts that you guys produce as well.
Oh, yeah.
Custom music, right.
Yeah.
That's super. We think that plays into the emotion.
I think it plays in perfectly. Small Town Big Business, which you guys are a producer on, the intro music for that is perfect. And I know that was produced in-house by you guys as well. The branding, everything for that was produced by you guys. And so kudos to you guys for doing that, because once again, that's another way to feature Southern Illinois artists, because you guys are the producers on it, and it's all original for those podcasts.
Yeah, we love it. There's a lot of creativity I can go into a project like that. And, again, what about the podcast, why did you want to start it up? They said, was there something that you were doing in the pandemic that you enjoyed? Are you going to do it again? Why? Yeah. Why was that something that you...
The why for me was kind of selfish, honestly. The why was I really enjoy those conversations. I love getting to sit down and designate 30 minutes to an hour to talk to somebody about an artistic endeavor, because so much is focused on business or logistics within what I do on a daily basis. And so I so rarely get to have a long, in-depth conversation about the artistic endeavor, process, and depth with someone. I get to interact with artists all the time, but I don't get to have those conversations. And so this gave me a way to have those conversations. So I was really excited about that.
Definitely.
So like I said, it's selfish initially on that surface level as to why to get it started. But the peripherals of that selfishness are that it gives a platform to expose local artists, for the Marion Cultural and Civic Center to not just focus on itself, but to focus on the area as a whole, and to help, not just help, but to partner with other organizations. We've done 2 interviews now with Cedarhurst Center for the Arts in Mount Vernon on different projects that they have in there. We've had you on to talk about your art fair, which was wonderful. Arts market, arts fair, and so it gives us an opportunity to highlight organizations and bring them to the forefront. And so that's a selfish start, but really has a lot of great productivity for the region from an artistic aspect.
So I guess that leads us into our next question. What do you see the role as the Marion Cultural and Civic Center in this community?
That's multifaceted. To some people, we are going to be a concert venue where they're going to get to see artists that they want to see. They're going to get to experience live music. Experiencing live music is a communal experience, whether people realize it or not. What makes seeing a concert live so good is that you're experiencing it with the people around you. You're experiencing it live with the band that's on stage, because that's a relational aspect of it. But the crowd that's around you, enjoying the music together, crying at times together, depending on what you're there to see. If you're there seeing musical theater and, and an incredibly tragic thing happens, you're experiencing that tragic thing as a communal group. And if something funny happens, you're laughing with other people, and there's a magic to that. So that place for live entertainment is a key component in a way to serve the community, and in a way to bring people together. But then we're also a space for local theater organizations, and all of the local theater that performs in there: Marion Junior High, Marion High School, 2 different children's theater groups, and one adult theater group, all bring different things to the table. And what we get to see there is a curation of an artistic community. And so being that role to help facilitate that curation of an artistic community and people to be able to live out what they want to live out artistically, being a part of something, being a part of one of those shows, is another role that we fill. And then as a community service, we fill the role for dance recitals. It's a place for them to showcase what they've been working on. And more importantly, to me, that's one of the places where we get to see multi-generational memories being built. With the old Marion Cultural and Civic Center, before it burned, through to the new one, which has been there now for 18 years. And so there are people who their grandparents danced on the stage at the old Marion Cultural and Civic Center, and their parents, and then they danced on the stage at the new one, and then their children are now dancing on the stage. And so 4 generations have all performed on that same stage, and they're then watching, those other 3 generations are all watching the newest generation do what they did. And so it's multi-generational memories being built there. And creating memories for people within a community places them within the community and places a sentimental place within the community for those people. And so our role is to facilitate space for that to happen and to help build community in that way. And then, of course, it's to serve the area, the region, and the city of Marion as an artistic beacon, as a place for people to come and experience anything, all different types of music, theater. I'm really excited about a show that's coming up in the fall. It hasn't been announced yet. This production of it is being premiered at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival as we speak. And it is a immersive theater experience that we're going to do, to where nobody will be sitting in the standard seats. They will be on stage in a bar setting, and it will be a functional bar. People will be able to order drinks and be at the tables throughout the show, and the show will happen in, amongst, and around them.
Wow.
And it's a full storyline, and it will sit down because of, it will be 100 to 150 people at a time, because we're doing it on the stage as an immersive setting like that. And because we're limiting the numbers that much, we're going to do 5 or 6 nights of it. And so they'll come in and sit down for a 1-week run in Marion. And so it's a really cool show that I'm really excited about. We're probably going to announce it in the next few weeks. So look at the Civic Center Facebook page. And it's just such a cool story. It was originally, the first version of it was done by the National Theatre of Scotland. And then now the tour and the new production of it is being produced as an immersive experience. Because I don't believe it was originally done it was originally just a stage play, but now being done as an immersive experience is premiering at the Fringe, and there was just an amazing review of it done, I think yesterday or the day before. And so it's going to be such a wonderful, cool experience that's going to be offered here in Marion that you won't have anywhere else.
That's awesome, man. That immersion, there's one thing to be in the crowd and seeing the stage, and that's awesome, but it's a unique opportunity, it sounds like, to have that immersive theater experience, to bring the audience into the stage, onto the stage.
And to experience it like, if there's a couple that's arguing at the bar and they get loud, everybody pays attention to that. And that's real life. And that's the same feeling that you're going to get set in that setting. You're going to be in that bar type of setting, and you're going to see this story unfold in front of you. And so I'm super excited to bring something kind of cutting edge theater with an immersive experience like that into Marion.
Super cool, man. And how do you go about, what's the process of booking a show like that?
So logistically, the process is you talk about the show with an agent or producer or representative of some sort. Then you talk about, how much it costs to bring them in. And then there's a little bit of a negotiation there. You look at what your production levels are, how that can work with the show, and then whether that show's going to make sense from a ticket scale standpoint. And ticket scale is, I've got this many seats at this many dollars, this many seats at this many dollars. Overall potential gross is this. Overall potential cost is this. My break even is going to be at this many seats. And here's my marketing plan, how I'm going to get to the sales for that many seats. And once I get to that many seats, I've got potential for profit of this much after that point. And looking at all of that as a whole and evaluating whether that's going to be the right fit or not. And it's a gamble. All of it's a gamble. You win, you lose. Hopefully you win a lot bigger on a number of concerts than you lose on a number of concerts. We're doing really well with that. Primarily because of the support of Southern Illinois. Southern Illinois is supporting what we're doing. They're seeing what we're trying to bring in, the names that we're bringing in, and that they're responding and showing up. And so that's helping tremendously. But that's at its base level, that's where it is. But the depth of that is, I've been attending what are called booking conferences, arts conferences, for I think 11 or 12 years now. And I've been building these relationships. The gentleman that I'm working with on the immersive show, he and I, whenever we first started talking, he's like, I do experimental theater stuff a lot, and I do incredibly high-level dance that's very expensive to bring in. We're probably never going to work together, but I like hanging out with you. Let's sit down and have a drink and just chat. And he and I have continued to do that. We've made appointments just to spend time around each other. And he's a wealth of knowledge in the industry. He produces a lot of shows, and he's been in the industry for a long time. Michael Mashala is his name, and he has been, as a friend and as a colleague, he's been that wealth of knowledge has been beneficial to me from a friendship level. But then this new project came available, and he's like, I think I might have something we might actually be able to work on together. But that project landing for us was 10 years in the making.
Wow.
Of developing that friendship and that relationship. And so the industry itself as a whole, to be able to get those kind of shows, is all about that long-term process of building the relationships and knowing the right people. Because, there are no agents in Southern Illinois. I've got to go outside of here to build those relationships, to find those relationships, and to curate those relationships over time. And building those relationships over time is where we're able to start getting the stuff that we have now. Whenever we were ready to jump into that, I had already had those relationships built with those agents, agencies, artists in the industry to be able to just jump right in and start doing show after show after show. And so it was really a long game from the beginning in building those relationships. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing at first. About 5 years in, I realized that I was doing that because at that point we weren't bringing in the level of artists that we're bringing in now, but I knew that there's potential for us to. And I was I had the relationships built, and I had been having meetings with the people that bring in that level of artist and talent. So seeing that finally come to fruition and those relationships pay off, it's pretty rewarding now after all that time built into it.
You know, relations, they say business is relations. So much of that, and planting seeds, and like you said, over time, you never know what that might bring. 10 years later in the making, now you're, working on bringing bigger shows and working on making those industry connections. And, 10 years later, now you're seeing a lot of the fruition of all that groundwork and relations that you've made over the past decade plus.
Yeah. And my mindset now versus my mindset whenever I first started at the Civic Center, whenever I was young. Back then, I thought business was all about power. It was all about, it was cutthroat. It's all about you find the deal that's best for you, not for anybody else. But, what you learn over time is that what you do for the community, what you do for the business community around you is much more beneficial in the long run than those selfish gains in the beginning. And that building those relationships by making the right decisions and doing what's right for both yourself and the community and for the business community as a whole makes you dependable and makes you viewed as a partner of the community and a partner of the businesses around you. And so learning that moving forward, it's the same thing on the national level with these agents is we're going to do what's best for us and for the artists, and that will serve our community in the best way. And the agents are okay with hearing, no, that's not going to work for us. We can't make that work at these numbers for our community, for what we're doing here. They're fine with getting a no. And saying, okay, that's fine. I've got these other artists and these other shows. Let's try and work on this. Or maybe this will be right in the future. So let's put this on the back burner for now. We know it's something that you're interested in, but it isn't going to work at this moment. So maybe in the future, you'll be doing something else in a different way and it'll work out. And the honesty that's within those relationships about that's right for us, that's not right for us, rather than just stringing them along and saying, maybe, and just being direct and honest is always your best play.
Yeah. I think that's smart, man. I think that's, a wise way to go about it. And, the proof is in the pudding, it's work over time. You reap what you sow, I suppose. And a lot of times it's the message, it can be, maybe it is a no, not right now, but maybe it's how you bring across that message to these agents probably, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not as,
And
cutthroat.
There are a number of agents or representatives of companies that I've been friends with for 6 years, 8 years, 10 years that we're just now starting to work together because the timing's right now. But those relationships and building those relationships throughout is what's created that opportunity at the right time.
That's great. So what is the best part about your role at the Marion Civic Center?
Most people would probably think it's getting to see all these cool shows that are coming in. I don't really get to do that because there are so many logistics behind the scene whenever it comes to a show that I'm never in there for shows for the most part. Every once in a while when my daughter will come to a show or my wife will want to come to a show, I'll try and make that break and sit down for a while. But during most shows, I might be able to pop in and hear half of a song. And a lot of that is logistical, that I just want to make sure it sounds good, and then I'm back out, because there's over 1,000 people in the building. There are concession sales, there's bar sales, there's ticket sales, there's ushering, there's security, there are all of the technical and logistical needs of the bands, there's catering, there's hospitality, there's a runner getting drivers from the hotel, there's there are so many logistics that go into a large show like that there is no sitting back and relaxing and enjoying it.
Which, you would think that'd be one of the best parts of the job.
You would think. And so that, but where the satisfaction comes in is at the end of a show, when it's been a great show. And this is something that we just started doing. It's a byproduct of something necessary. Whenever we started having bar sales at the Civic Center, we had to have people at the doors at the end of the show, because you can't take alcohol outside, because public consumption is not allowed in Marion. And so we had to have people at the doors to tell people, hey, you can't take that out. You've got to either pour it out or finish it. But what that allowed for is us thanking people for coming as they were leaving. And so there's people stationed at every exit door saying, hey, thank you for coming out tonight. Thanks for enjoying this show with us. Thanks for joining us with this. Come back and enjoy something again. So glad to see you again, because there's a lot of people that come back and back and back. And so it allowed for us to give a personal connection there at the end. And if people loved a show, they're happy to tell you about it. If people didn't love a show, they're happy to tell you about it.
Oh, yeah. Goes both ways.
And for the most part, getting to hear how much they enjoyed it. At dance recitals, seeing those generations interacting with each other after a show, knowing that we're affecting the people in the community and the community as a whole, that's where that satisfaction really lands. And so that's where I really enjoy what we're doing, because I know that it's making a difference.
And those relationships, again, not only with the agents, but with the community members themselves, the customers, the patrons that are entering.
Yeah.
That.
And even though we are part of the city of Marion and underwritten by the city of Marion, we function as another business in downtown. And so being part of the business community is important, but then also, as you were saying, interacting with the actual people of Southern Illinois, because we are the Marion Cultural and Civic Center, but we serve the entire region. I was just looking at we had sold out show for the Oak Ridge Boys last weekend. And I was looking at a zip code report for that. And of the 1,050 sold tickets, just over 100 came from Marion.
Just 10% almost.
10% came from Marion. 90% came from the rest of Southern Illinois. A little bit from Kentucky and a little bit from Southeast Missouri.
Wow.
A couple of tickets in Western Indiana.
And that just shows you.
And so we are a regional service. And we're serving everyone in Southern Illinois with the type of shows that we're bringing into town. And that it's something that we view as a service to the Southern Illinois region, not just to Marion.
Well, you won't find a better live theater, live show experience than at the Marion Cultural and Civic Center.
And that's part of that has to do with the design of the space. White and Bergoni Architects designed it out of Carbondale. So once again, Southern Illinois artists, because architects are very much artists. They're technicians and logistics as well, but very much artists. They created this beautiful space. Somebody with magical foresight whenever the original Civic Center burned in 97, had the foresight to pull out all the original terracotta pieces of the original facade and reconstruct them as an entryway behind glass in the foyer of the Marion Cultural and Civic Center. And that tie back to history with that artistic vision creates a very unique space. But then once they came into the theater, they wanted a grand lobby with a grand staircase that really harkened back to the old days of the traditional opera house. And then whenever you go into the space, you've got balcony boxes, which are really come back from the traditional opera house. And so you've got that aspect that is a traditional aspect within a modern design. But the amazing thing that they did is that it was a fair amount of money. I think it was like $68,000 on an acoustic engineer to oversee the design of the room. That acoustic engineer designed that room for the right amount of reverberation within the room and the right amount of sound deadening within the room, to where you can feel the music in the room. If you look at the space, there's not a flat space in the room except where the beams are, because they have to be flat. But all of the walls in between are at like a 5-degree angle to reflect the sound in a certain way for dissipation. At the back of the balcony, there's a designed sound wave, and the entire back wall of that balcony is a wave form that counters low-end reverberation and keeps it from being a bass trap, if you will. And so it's this beautifully designed space from an acoustic standpoint that actually allows the artist on stage to feel the energy coming back from the audience. And so the space is designed in a way that's great for the performer and for the audience. And there's something magical about that.
And that attention to detail is really, sets apart that space from the design, from the balcony, the stage, the acoustics. That's really what sets it apart and gives it that full theater immersive experience.
It is.
Like you said, you're in the sound, you feel it.
You feel it, and you feel the energy from the people around you. If the audience is applauding, you feel that sound energy. And that creates an electric feel to the room that adds to the energy and excitement of the space that you're in.
And the improvements, too, recently, from the lighting and the sound, those improvements, can you talk a little bit about those improvements that have been made?
Yeah, over the past few years, we've added nearly 300 light fixtures, 100% LED, but we have almost 90 moving fixtures. And we have ridiculous, and like almost every light in the space is color controlled through the LEDs. And so it's this incredibly versatile space for both musical theater and concert lighting. And then just over the past few months, we have installed what's called a line array sound system, which is 9 boxes on each side that perfectly dissipate the sound at different levels per box based on where they're pointed in the room, to where you've got an equal sound coverage for the room, both acoustically and as far as power of the sound, because all of that can be gauged within the modeling of the space per the sound drivers. And then we just got these brand new Digico Quantum 225 brand new consoles on the market, and Digico Quantum series is the leading live sound console in the industry. And we got 2 of those, one for monitor mixing and one for front of house mixing. And so with all of those components, we have all of the elements that are at the top cutting edge of live production.
And that allows you to expand your...
That allows us to bring in bigger artists that are touring, because we have all of the things that they need to just plug into or sit down at to have the show that they need.
It's truly state-of-the-art venue. It's, it's just such a jewel, and we're so lucky to have the Marion Civic Center
And in a community with a population listed at 17,000, communities of 17,000 people don't have spaces like this. We hear that again and again and again. This isn't what we expected coming into a town like this. We're so glad that your space is so amazing.
It's just a testament to the community itself and those who came before us. And
this has been a vision that's been ongoing and developed over 50 years. 1974, so I guess 48 years. 1974, whenever the city decided to start the Marion Cultural and Civic Center out of what was the Orpheum Theater, which was an old vaudeville theater and movie theater. And whenever they decided to purchase it, they originally decided to purchase it to tear it down and make a parking lot.
Wow.
And an amazing leader in the community, Jackie Hancock, went to the Mayor Butler and said, "You cannot do that. Here's my vision that I think we can build upon, is to create it as a community space for performing arts." And from there, her and Yolande Peterson took the reins and built it into what it is today. And the fire in 1997 was incredibly tragic. The community lost something that was incredible to the community. But what came out of that was this swell of community support, community funding to build anew. And that opportunity to build anew and to build state-of-the-art with more comfortable seating, with the same acoustic perfection, and to be able to build an amazing space like that in a community like this that shows the community support and the community foresight is why we have what we have now. And so while the fire was incredibly tragic, it created an amazing opportunity, and the community got behind it and supported it and raised over $2 million from private donation within the community. And so the people of this community rebuilt that theater. And it shows because they continue to support it today.
And that decision to not tear down the original Orpheum, right? That's huge. Yeah. And then to rebuild in the same location. And
rebuild in the same location.
In downtown
but
Marion.
Larger, and keep it downtown. And that perfectly aligned whenever Mayor Absher came in. He said, look, we have an opportunity to have an economic driver. And by economic driver, he doesn't mean that we're making the money for the downtown community. He means we're creating opportunity for downtown businesses. As in, if people are coming down for a show, there's opportunity for restaurants and shops to benefit from that foot traffic. And whenever we have well over 100,000 people coming into our space every year, all of those people are walking through downtown. They're either seeing the businesses or walking into the businesses. There are more restaurants slated to open up downtown. And all of those have the benefit or the potential benefit to benefit from that foot traffic. And so you can't have business where there aren't people. And so that gives us the opportunity to create and curate the people to facilitate the business development in downtown. And it was such a beautiful foresight whenever he came into office that he said, look, you just have to start booking more. I want people to associate us with where things happen in Southern Illinois. I want people to associate Marion with that. And at the heart of that, the Marion Cultural and Civic Center, and also the Pavilion, which is starting to book amazing shows. Cheap Trick is coming in. The Pavilion's bringing Cheap Trick in September. And what an amazing show that's going to be. Such a legendary group coming into town. So it's not just the Civic Center. But it is just the Civic Center as far as downtown traffic. And so the opportunity to be a part of that community, business community in that way as a driver of foot traffic is a great thing.
Such a draw.
And the city's capitalizing on that in a way that the city has found federal grants for redoing the square in completion. And so this year, right now, as we speak, the entire center circle of the square is completely torn out. But amazing things are going to go in there. Beautiful fountains, public space, an actual ice rink in the winter with real ice. And then over the next 2 years, the entire remainder of the square is going to be completely redone to facilitate better pedestrian crossways and better make it more pedestrian friendly in downtown so that people can walk from business to business and from shop to restaurant and from bar to bar in the nightlife. They can come down, they can eat downtown, and then they can go to the bars downtown, and they can make their entire evening downtown. They can come down, have a meal, go see a show, then go out and have a cocktail afterwards, and make it an overall experience for an evening as opposed to just coming down for a show.
And that experience is so unique for this area.
For this area, especially within a small town downtown feel.
Exactly.
Paducah did pretty well with it. They've got the Carson Center, which is an amazing venue, and they're bringing in amazing stuff in there as well. The director down there, Mary Katz is her name. She's doing a great job with bringing in some great entertainment. But they're just slightly disconnected. They're about 4 blocks from the downtown. Whereas the amazing thing about our venue is it is down in the heart of downtown on the square in amongst the nightlife and where those restaurants are going in and where those shops are going in. And so to come to a show, you're in the heart of it. There's not a separate parking lot. You've got to park within the downtown and walk within the downtown to get to the show. And as much as people think that there's a shortage, people, sometimes think there's a shortage of parking. However, there's 1,100 parking spaces within 2 blocks of the square. There's ample parking for anybody. You just have to walk a couple of blocks. In any city to go to a show, you're going to have to walk a lot more than that.
A lot more. And
so we're right there aligned with all the best venues in the world as far as parking and getting to the venue. It's just not as convenient as pulling up in a spot 100 feet away from the door at Walmart.
Right.
You're going to have to walk a couple of blocks. But if you park at the back corner of the Walmart parking lot, you're walking the same amount to get to our doors in walking through downtown as you would be at Walmart. So it's really not that big of a difference. It's just that mental shift that needs to happen.
Sure. And I think what is happening is only going to encourage that more with making the square itself more pedestrian friendly. It's going to promote that foot traffic that you're mentioning, which is key to restaurants, shops.
Yeah.
That's like one of the number one components is what's the foot traffic?
And the more time that we can have the people downtown before the show and after the show, the more opportunity there is for them to interact with the businesses downtown.
Absolutely. So it's exciting. I'm excited for, the history, the legacy, the Civic Center, what it means to this community is so profound, and it's in great hands. And I'm really, I'm proud of what we have there in this community for the whole region. It's just truly incredible.
And we're creating some fun experiences.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we've got the Disney Junior National Tour coming in, Disney Junior Live coming in end of September. And we got that show because of how many shows and what size shows we were doing. And they actually called us as opposed to us reaching out. They called us and said, "Hey, we saw that you've done this show, and this show. What would you think about working with us on Disney Junior Live?"
And that's a testament. They came to you.
They came to us because of the quality of shows that we were doing and the quantity of shows that we were doing. They saw there's a reporting entity that where you can see stats of live performances of tours, how many seats they were selling. We had Scooby-Doo Live come into Marion last year. And it was the numbers that they saw and the attendance that they saw at that show in this little town that they never would have considered based on our population prior. But seeing the results and the evidence in other shows that are similar, they're like, well, we can do this. This will work. What do you think about partnering with Disney? Well, of course we're going to partner with Disney.
Yeah, I mean, they're, as far as entertainment, stage, on screen, in the parks, Disney's the best.
Yeah, and, all of the Mickey, Minnie, Pluto, Donald, Goofy are all coming, but then, they're also bringing all of their newest TV shows, and now that they have a partnership with Marvel, they're bringing Spidey and his amazing friends as well.
Oh, cool.
And so it's not just like Doc McStuffins and the Pet Pals, and which they are going to be there, but then Spidey and his amazing friends are a part of that show as well.
That's the genius of Disney, bringing in a new audience into their existing universe with the Marvel.
Yeah.
That's huge. Maybe somebody isn't into Mickey, whatever, but they like Spidey.
But they like Spider-Man.
Exactly.
That's a way to reach the boys, the male young kids, because they're not as much into the Disney characters, but those superheroes they're into a lot, and Spidey and his amazing friends being part of that, and then they've done an amazing thing with that show to where there's female Spider-Man characters.
Oh, wow.
Within Spidey and his amazing friends now. And so there's representation for all of the kids that want to watch it.
Cool.
And so they've done a great job with that.
That's great. I mean, always have to be reaching new audiences, right? Reaching out to the, a new viewer, a new section of the populace.
Yeah, and family programming like that is something that's relatively new to the Civic Center. We've had the Nutcracker for the past 5 years. With the Moscow Ballet, bringing that in. And that brings in a family audience. But stuff that's directly aimed at children, like the Scooby-Doo tour and like the Disney tour. And we've got a few things coming up that we haven't announced yet for the spring. We had in January of 2020, we had Dinosaur World Live, where there were life-size dinosaurs on the stage. That's this amazing articulated puppetry that creates this world where you really feel like you're there with dinosaurs. And they're taking that into a fantasy world. And so there's a show that isn't announced yet, but a little preview of it here. Dragons and Mythical Beasts, and it's a lot of the beasts from like Harry Potter and that world, and some big life-size dragons and stuff like that. The exact details of that we'll announce soon, but that's coming in the winter and spring from the same company that brought us Dinosaur World Live, that's built these amazing puppets and creates this amazing experience. And so that'll be coming again in the spring. And then we've got another tour that's a tour of a musical based off of an incredibly popular kids movie and movie series, Madagascar. I can't tell you the exact details of that right now either, but there's something associated with that'll be coming out soon as well, as far as an announcement. And so all of that stuff where we're creating opportunities for families to bring their children in and creating that family atmosphere to where they can come and bring their kids and have an experience with their kids is key. Because the building future audiences only comes from kids being there and being in the space and seeing live entertainment and seeing live theater. And so building future audiences only happens with getting the kids in the door in the first place. So I'm really happy to be offering all of those opportunities, and then hopefully offering more opportunities for the schools to come in as well for some of these shows during the daytime.
Yeah, a lot of exciting upcoming shows. And I want to ask, what do you see what do you envision the future for the Marion Cultural and Civic Center?
bigger names, bigger acts. I mean, we are limited. We have 1,100 seats. Some acts are so big that they're only going to play to 10,000 or more, or 5,000 or more. And we are so far under that the financials would never work out to bring some acts in. But there's some real legends out there that are playing 1,000-seat houses. And I think we can capitalize on that and bring more of those legends in. We're working on a couple right now that'll be announced soon. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to bringing in more family entertainment, getting more families involved with the Civic Center, and us being a part of their lives. You know, that they look forward to bringing their kids to shows at the Civic Center. And that also starts with the local productions. You know, Art Starts just announced Moana for the spring. I can't imagine that room's not going to be full of kids so excited to see Moana Junior live. And
it's a good choice.
So that's one of those things where, you know, the local theater groups are helping us to bring in the families and for the families to interact with the space and be in the space. And
giving
see
the kids
shows there.
A chance to perform.
And that's what we talked about with creating that artistic curation and that artistic community is it's so multifaceted in creating an opportunity for the kids to perform, opportunity for their family and for their friends to see them perform. And whenever little kids see other kids performing, it triggers something in their mind going, oh, I could do this. And it creates the environment for kids the opportunity for them to desire to do it because they know that they can now.
A little spark goes off in the mind.
Yeah.
I remember seeing my first show there and just loving being in that audience. It's like unlike anything, you know, to be a kid, seeing the big stage, the lights, and then there's my friends on stage. There are these characters, and it's like a whole nother world that
and
they're opening up to them.
in a story that's being told to me. And so they are those characters as opposed to just being their friend on stage in a dance recital.
Right.
And being in the space and the dance recitals is important, but there's a completely different thing that happens when they're in a musical and they're part of a story and they're part of an experience.
Yeah, the storytelling aspect. Yeah, it's great. I want to plug the Marion Civic Center. Any upcoming events, any upcoming shows that we need to be aware of?
September 12th, we've got an amazing talent with Haley Reinhardt coming in. If you are familiar with Postmodern Jukebox, a lot of their early viral videos, she was the vocalist on. And then she's gone on. She was also a finalist on American Idol. And she's got this amazing pop and jazz voice. And so we've got her coming in September 12th, and that's going to be an incredible show. And then we've got a blues legend, Robert Cray, with the Robert Cray Band, coming in September 25th.
Talk about an icon.
A total icon.
Blues icon.
And so, you know, we had Buddy Guy last summer, and then we've got Robert Cray coming in. I mean, we're trying to bring some real legendary names to the community. And so we've got Robert Cray coming up September 25th, September 27th. We've got September 26th. No, it is the 27th, is Disney Junior Live. And then even before that, we've got production coming up of Hunchback of Notre Dame. We've got Travis Tritt is coming in August 19th. And there's not that many tickets left for that show. So if you want to see Travis Tritt and Marion, get your tickets now. And so we've got just some great stuff coming in. John Michael Montgomery's coming in at the beginning of October. AJ Croce with Croce Plays Croce is October 9th. September 21st, we've got Sarah Evans coming in doing an acoustic show. And so just a lot of different opportunities for all different types of music, all different types of entertainment. And doing our best to serve the community through all of those different ways.
And what's the best way if somebody wants to see a show, get involved in this arts scene, and see a show at the Marion Civic Center? What's the best way for someone listening to do that?
To see a show, the best way is through our website at marioncccc.com. Follow our Facebook page. Our Facebook page and Instagram is where all show announcements go out. And you can also buy, there's always a ticket link on any post to where you can buy tickets for that show, and click straight through to a browser and buy tickets through the Facebook page as well. And then as far as getting involved, if you're interested in community theater, reach out to us on Facebook and we'll connect you with either one of the community theater groups for children or for adults, depending on what you're looking for.
Now, there's a great art scene, theater scene here in this region, and wouldn't be possible without the Civic Center. And again, we're just so lucky to have those opportunities as children, as adults. You can do any age. You can find those opportunities here.
You can. A few years ago, it was only summers where you could find regional opportunity for families, for kids in theater. Now, year-round, kids can be in shows, be involved in theater. And if they're really passionate about theater, they can get a lot of shows under their belt before they go to college. And that experience, being on stage in more and more shows, is the biggest key to developing yourself as a performer. And so we create the opportunity for that. We don't create the shows. We have the space, but the organizations that are performing within our walls are there because the space is there.
Yeah. Well, we're just fortunate to be here in this community, for a rural community this size. It's just incredible. So we just have to be thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
And, kudos to you.
Well, and I'm thankful to be able to be here in this community and have a job within the arts. That's why I left SIU in the first place. After my first year in theater, I didn't see a steady, stable career within the theater industry. And I was so incredibly wrong. And I'm so happy to be so incredibly wrong.
Yeah. You never know. You never know what the future will hold.
Mm-hmm.
There's been so many times where I was, completely wrong. Just had didn't know.
Yeah.
And then turns out, there's a lot of possibilities in future iteration of that as well.
Well, and, like when I was at SIU in the theater department there, my view was that, the only jobs there are as a designer creating work or performing on stage. All of the business aspects that are the live entertainment industry, where really 70 to 80% of the jobs are within the business aspects of live performance and live events and the logistics ends. I had no idea that those were even out there as part of the industry. Because, for Broadway shows, there's casting, there are consulting groups that put together the teams of creatives. There are so many different business aspects that feed into the arts and industry that are part of it that I had no idea existed. And so I didn't think that there was a future in live performance and in the arts, because I didn't know that stuff was out there.
What is your hope for the future of this community in the downtown neighborhood and the Southern Illinois region as a whole?
My hope is as Marion moves forward, to not just see people coming in for shows, but to see people coming into downtown just to interact with the downtown, because it is developing to that point. And as all these businesses start to open, there will be a life to downtown that hasn't been there for decades. And that's something that all of Southern Illinois can interact with and be a part of. It'll be a place where people can go down and enjoy themselves. and it enriches it enriches the downtown in a way that provides for growth and sustainability for a thriving downtown, as opposed to some of the downtowns around the country and small towns that are just decaying. And so to see that life brought back is pretty incredible.
It sure is. And it's an example and a beacon that what we're doing here in Marion, what you're doing at the Civic Center, people are doing all across town, I think is an example for other areas that this is how you can do it. This is what can be done.
And that the arts are part of what's facilitating that. The arts are at the heart of it. And if us being there inspires children to become part of the arts, to pursue lives within the arts, to pursue careers within the arts, to establish their own businesses like Union Street Arts within the arts, then we're serving the community and the arts community in an amazing way.
Well, I tell you, there would be no Union Street Arts without the Marion Culture and Civic Center being here. And, without your friendship, Josh, your mentorship that you've had on us,
Well, we love what you guys are doing. I love what you guys are doing, and I'm happy to be around it. And to see it to continue to develop.
Yeah, we're excited too, man.
Yeah. I took my daughter this morning, just this morning, to see the mural that your summer camp created. And she went by it, and I said, yeah, kids created that. And she said, oh, I'd never be able to do that. And I said, but honey, I've had you paint on parts of the murals that we've done. And, things were outlined, and then you filled them in and painted them.
Yeah.
She said, oh, yeah, I guess I could do that. And so even within my own daughter, watching that light go on and say, oh, I guess I could do that just this morning, because we drove by your building, is part of it.
That's awesome. And that's a great segue into the mural project as a whole.
Yeah.
So Josh, what is Marion Murals? Thank you for listening and watching the Union Street Podcast, Part 1 episode with Josh Benson of the Marion Cultural and Civic Center. We have an upcoming episode with Josh where we dive deep, Part 2, into Marion Mural District and what is upcoming for downtown Marion, Illinois. And we can't wait to see you in the next one.